Hello, this is Hunter McDermott with Anyone Can Play Guitar with a frequently asked question. So you've been going through those music theory lesson videos. We've covered this chromatic scale up here. We talked about the circle of fourths/fifths. And maybe you got a piece of paper out and you're going through and you're writing out each scale just to make sure you understand this whole major scale formula keys thing. And you're realizing that some of these notes, some of the notes we have up here are missing from our circle. So the six that are missing are A sharp, B sharp, D sharp, E sharp, F flat, and G sharp. So on this circle we have all these natural notes, A through G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then in some cases we have sharp versions of them, and in some cases we have flat versions, in some cases we have both, but in some cases we don't. We're missing something. So I just wanted to go through a couple of these scales today to illustrate for you why they don't really exist. So we were going to go through our A sharp scale and we're going to go through the B flat scale. We'll look at a couple new symbols that you may come across in your musical travels someday, and we'll see what those scales might look like if they did exist. Alright, so when we're building a major scale, we have a couple things to keep in mind, some rules to follow as we're coming up with the notes that we need. So the first thing is we need one of every letter, A through G, represented. So we can't have like two D's or two F's or whatever. We have to have one of every letter. Now it can be a sharp, it can be a flat, sometimes it can be a natural, but there can only be one of that letter in the scale. And then the other thing is we can't mix sharps and flats. So if we have a scale that's got a sharp in it, we can't then go to a flat note and throw it into the same scale. It's got to have naturals and sharps or naturals and flats, but not a mixture of flats and sharps. Alright, so we're going to start with this A sharp scale here. Now this note does appear in our chromatic scale. It's right there. So this gives us a good starting point. We can use this chromatic scale to go through our major scale formula and figure out what notes would theoretically be in this scale. Alright, so we have our A sharp. So first thing we do is we go up a whole step from our A sharp. So that would be one half step here and then another half step here. So this would bring us to the note C. Alright, but I can't just put C there because then we would have bypassed B altogether. And we have to have some kind of B there. Okay, well, so how can we represent this C note using some sort of B? All right, well, we would do that by saying B sharp. All right, so we know that the sharp symbol represents a half step higher than the note. So if we're at B and we sharp it, we get to C. So it sounds like C, but we can actually call it B sharp in this case. All right, so now we're here, and we need to go a whole step to get our next note. All right, well, that's a half step, and then another half step would get us to D. So we have the same situation as before. We've completely bypassed C, and we have to have some version of C here for this to follow our rules. All right, well, so how could we represent the note D using some sort of C version? Okay, well, if we sharp it, we just get C sharp, and that's not quite far enough. So we'd have to sharp it and then sharp it again. So we'd have to double sharp the note. And that looks kind of like this. It's a little X looking symbol. You can look it up and see the fancy calligraphy version you see in sheet music. Okay, so we're playing a D note. This is what we hear, but we're calling it a C double sharp, which is just C up two half steps. So now you're starting to see kind of why maybe this is a mistake. But we're going to keep going. So we're at D, but we're calling it C double sharp. All right, now we need to go up a half step. Okay, so that gets us here to D sharp. Well, that works out fine. So we need a D anyway. All right, the next thing we need is going to be an E, but we have to go up a whole step. Okay, well, a half step brings us to E, and a whole step brings us to F, so we'd have to represent this as an E sharp. We have to sharp that E to get it to sound like that F note. All right, so now we're here. We got to go up a whole step, which gets us to G, and again, we've bypassed F altogether. We need to have some kind of F to move forward, but we've actually ended up at G. So similar situation as over here. We can sharp F to get to F sharp, and then we can double sharp F to get to what sounds like a G. So that would be F double sharp. All right, so now we're here on this note, and we're going to go up another whole step, which would be all the way back to A. All right, but we already have an A, so we can't call it A. We have to call it G something. All right, well, similar situation is here and here. We go up a half step to get to G sharp, and another half step would bring us to A, so that would have to be a double sharp. We sharp G, and we sharp G again, and that gets us to A. All right, so if we count the number of sharps we have, this is a duplicate of the first note, so we just count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We end up with 10 sharps, but there are only 7 notes in the scale. So we never really want to sharp or flat more notes than we have, because then you have to start double sharping things. And if it was confusing understanding what I was doing, that's the whole point. It's just too confusing. There are too many sharps going on. All right, so let's look at one other example just to drive this home and show you the flat equivalent of that double sharp that we saw. All right, so another example we could do is F flat. All right, so we're going to go whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half, brings us back to F flat. Okay, we won't go through all the way through this one. So we start with F flat. Okay, so already we're doing something weird because F flat isn't even in the chromatic scale. But flat being the inverse of the sharp, we know that flat just means bring the note down by a half step instead of up. So if we have F and we flat it, what we're actually hearing is E, but we're representing it as an F flat. All right, so we're going to go up a whole step from F flat, which is actually here. So we end up here with F sharp or G flat. Okay, well, we need an F. We need a G of some kind, so G flat works fine. All right, then we need to go up by a whole step from here, and we need some kind of A. Well, there's A flat, so that works okay. All right, then we need to go up a half step from A flat. Well, that would put us at A, but what we need next is some kind of B note. Okay, so how do I represent A using some sort of B as my starting point? Well, in order to get to A from B, I'd have to flat B, and then I have to flat B a second time. So I have to go down 2 times, 2 half steps to get to that A pitch. And so that would be the B double flat. So it's the double sharp version on the flat side. We just go down 2 half steps instead of going up by 2 half steps. And there's no fancy symbol for the B for the double flat. It's just 2 flats next to each other. And you can look that up as well and see examples of that in sheet music. So if you've gone through these lessons and you're looking at that circle and you're going, where's this D sharp scale? Maybe you got a piece of paper and you're writing out each individual scale for every note you can think of, and some of them just don't work out. You end up with maybe 2 A notes in the scale, or you just get confused and you skip over a note altogether. Well, chances are it's one of those 6 that we looked at the beginning, and here is an illustration as to why we don't do that. We don't want more sharps in the scale than we have notes. We don't want more flats in the scale than we have notes. So there you go. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. This has been a frequently asked question from Hunter McDermott with Anyone Can Play Guitar. Thanks for watching.